Welcome back. We know exactly why you're joining us today.
We absolutely do.
You're that person who just loves to learn, the one who wants to understand the really complex machinery of the world without
Drowning in a million different news feeds?
exactly, or like academic journals and endless technical jargon. So we've custom tailored today's deep dive just for you.
We have a massive stack of incredibly dense, highly technical information today.
Yeah, regarding a fundamental shift in how the world fights, we are zeroing in on the Middle East, specifically the unprecedented events of February 2026.
Right, the conflict widely known as Operation Epic Fury.
Or Roaring Lion, depending on the source, involving the U.S., Israel, and Iran.
And before we get into the weeds here, we need to lay down a very clear, absolutely mandatory ground rule for today's discussion.
Yeah, please.
Because the materials we're unpacking today, they cover highly politically charged military actions, deeply entrenched geopolitical conflicts, and real-world warfare.
Involving the U.S., Israel, and Iran.
Exactly. So we want to be explicitly clear to you listening right now. We are absolutely not taking any sides here.
None at all.
We are not endorsing any political viewpoints, military actions, or, national narratives. Our sole mission today is to act strictly as impartial guides.
We're just looking at the data, the code, and the shifting tactics. We're here to simply convey and analyze the factual events contained in the information we have.
Right. To help you understand how algorithms, AI, and digital espionage are completely reshaping modern warfare, intelligence gathering, and even daily civilian life.
Because what happened in February 2026 is a total paradigm shift. Just to give you a taste of what we're going to cover today.
It's intense.
It really is. We're talking about a commercial AI system planning a lethal military strike while actively under a federal ban.
Yeah.
We're going to look at how a simple smartphone prayer app was weaponized to track citizens.
And how soldiers were literally earning movie theater tickets for scanning the faces of civilians.
I mean, it sounds like a dystopian sci-fi novel, but it is entirely real. So let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Let's start with the physical battlefield. February 28th, 2026. This is the day the U.S. and Israel launched coordinated kinetic strikes on Iranian leadership.
And military compounds
Yeah.
and nuclear sites.
Right. And just to be clear for everyone, when we say kinetic, we mean actual physical weapons exploding on real-world targets.
As opposed to digital cyber attacks.
Exactly. But the headline here isn't just the physical explosions. This is being called the first airstrike led by AI.
Which is a monumental threshold to cross in human history.
Yeah.
Because for a long time, militaries have used software for, logistics or managing supply chains or predictive maintenance on fighter jets.
Right, back office stuff.
Exactly. But Operation Epic Fury represents the exact moment artificial intelligence moved from the back office directly into the real-time operational chain of command.
Wow.
The modern battlefield is changing so that AI now leads what the military calls the kill chain.
And the kill chain is basically the entire start-to-finish process of warfare, right? Identifying a target, deciding to strike, and actually executing the attack.
That's right. And the data on this is staggering.
It really is. The military utilized an AI model named Claude.
Developed by the tech startup Anthropic.
Right, alongside a massive data integration platform from Palantir called Gotham.
Imagine a digital situation room where every single piece of intelligence is converging instantaneously.
Claude and Gotham ingested tens of thousands of intercepted Persian documents from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. But they didn't stop at just documents.
No, they fed the AI live satellite imagery, intercepted communication methods.
Localized power consumption metrics, even emergency evacuation routes.
And what's fascinating here is the sheer computing power applied to military strategy. The AI wasn't just acting as a fancy digital filing cabinet.
Right, it wasn't just storing data.
It was simulating tens of thousands of different attack scenarios in a fraction of the time a human intelligence team could.
It was proposing the optimal strike order to maximize success.
Exactly. The operational outputs were highly specific. The AI would suggest things like, Scenario A is the optimal route to minimize civilian casualties.
Or it would predict that the absolute best time to target a specific leadership compound was exactly 10 a.m.
Based on months of historical movement patterns that it analyzed in seconds.
That is wild, and this ties directly into a massive internal shift at the Pentagon, the Department of War.
Which is the modern operational name for the Pentagon's arm.
Right. They had just issued a new AI-first directive. They rolled out a secure platform called GenAI.mil to give millions of service members access to generative models on classified networks.
It's all about achieving an asymmetric advantage in data processing speed. Because if you can think and decide faster than your enemy,
You win.
you win.
But here is where the story gets incredibly dramatic behind the scenes. The U.S. military used Claude for this massive strike despite a direct order from President Trump.
Yes, that is a crucial piece of the puzzle. The president had actually issued a federal ban giving government agencies 6 months to phase this specific technology out. Yet, commanders in the theater of war were so reliant on the AI's ability to collapse the timeline between gathering intelligence and making a life-or-death decision.
They essentially ignored the phase-out timeline.
They did.
And the conflict wasn't just between the military and the White House, it was between the military and Silicon Valley.
Right.
Anthropic actively resisted the military's demands. They had built-in safety guardrails, specifically refusing to allow their AI to be used for mass domestic surveillance or fully autonomous weapon systems.
But the Pentagon essentially said, we're in the middle of a war, we need this operational capability now.
And the military actually threatened to label the tech company a supply chain risk and cancel massive defense contracts if those guardrails weren't removed.
It highlights a massive collision of worlds. You have the boardroom debates of civilian tech companies suddenly becoming matters of international warfare.
Yeah.
When a nation's most critical strategic planning relies on a private startup software, the boundaries between commercial tech and the military-industrial complex just completely dissolve.
Exactly. Now, before those physical bombs even fell, there was an entirely invisible war happening. I want to shift over to the cyber front.
Let's do it.
Because the digital first strike was just as vital. U.S. Cyber Command and Space Command effectively blinded Iranian defenses before a single jet crossed the airspace.
They layered non-kinetic digital effects to degrade communications.
Right. And inside Iran, internet connectivity didn't just slow down. It flatlined to just 4% of its normal traffic.
A near-total digital blackout.
Now, when I first looked at this, it seemed completely counterintuitive. Why would a country turn off its own internet during a massive military invasion? You're essentially blinding your own country.
It does seem entirely backwards at first glance. But from a regime survival standpoint, it actually serves a very specific dual purpose.
Okay.
That 4% flatline was a self-imposed internet kill switch by Iranian authorities.
Really?
Yes. By shutting down the internet, the government attempted to hide its own military movements and missile deployments from outside surveillance.
Ah, I see.
At the same time, it stifles any potential domestic protests or uprisings that could exploit the chaos of the airstrikes to organize against the government.
But of course, severing your own digital infrastructure also cripples your internal coordination.
It does. It's a desperate measure.
And the attackers anticipated that. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
This is where the strategy shifts from attacking computers to attacking human psychology. Analysts are calling this application layer PSYOPS.
Psychological operations delivered directly into the pockets of everyday citizens.
Exactly. There's an app called But Saba. It's a Muslim prayer time app with over 30 million installations in Iran. It is immensely popular.
Very popular.
During the strikes, while the broader internet was choking, this specific app was hijacked. Instead of users getting a notification that it was time to pray, millions of people received push notifications urging the military to surrender.
The messages said things like, help has arrived, and defend the people and they will defend you.
The psychological impact of receiving that on a trusted religious app is profound.
It is. But the technical implications are even more severe when you think about how these apps actually function.
Right.
Consider the demographic that uses a prayer app. It skews highly conservative, deeply religious, and heavily overlaps with pro-regime supporters and military personnel.
And to give you accurate prayer times based on the position of the sun, that app requires constant access to your phone's GPS location data.
Precisely. Which means this wasn't just about sending a scary text message.
No.
If you hack a location-based app, you instantly turn 30 million civilian smartphones into a real-time military radar screen.
That is terrifying.
Hacking that specific app potentially exposed the real-time physical movements, the telemetry logs, and the unique device identifiers of its entire user base.
It allows an intelligence agency to track force concentrations or the exact locations of military personnel simply by watching where the phones running this prayer app are gathering in physical space.
It turns a civilian tool of faith into a highly accurate military targeting matrix.
And the concept of information dominance didn't stop at smartphones. State television, specifically Channel 3 satellite feeds, were hijacked.
Right.
Iranians tuning in for emergency state broadcasts suddenly saw video speeches by Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu playing on their national TV.
Furthermore, Israel reportedly utilized years of hacked footage from everyday traffic cameras in Tehran.
Yeah, they ran social network analysis on billions of data points, from civilian traffic cameras to identify targets and figure out exactly who is meeting with whom over the course of years.
It demonstrates that in modern warfare, there is absolutely no separation between civilian digital infrastructure and military targets.
None at all.
A traffic camera is an intelligence asset. A prayer app is a tracking device. Everything is interconnected, and everything can be weaponized to break an adversary's command and control.
But of course, every action causes a reaction. Iran did not just absorb this hit. The counteroffensive, which is referred to as the Great Epic, was massive.
It was.
While Iran did fire kinetic missiles and drones at Israel and U.S. bases, their cyber retaliation was instantaneous.
Within 24 hours of the initial strikes, Israel went from experiencing 6% of global cyber incidents to 21%.
In a single day, they became the most targeted nation on planet Earth.
And Iran's approach to cyber warfare is fascinating because it is highly structured, but specifically designed to look chaotic.
Right. They utilize a very mature ecosystem of state-aligned advanced persistent threats, or APTs.
Think of these as the elite, government-backed military hackers. But they work alongside proxy hacktivist groups with names like RipperSec and the Handela hack team.
It's kind of like a digital mafia boss using street-level proxies to do the dirty work so they don't get directly implicated.
That's a great way to look at it. It provides the regime with total plausible deniability. The state intelligence apparatus can quietly provide the highly advanced malware and the target lists, while the proxy hacktivists launch the actual attacks.
They flood targets with distributed denial-of-service attacks to create massive noise and distraction.
While the elite teams slip in through the back door.
Exactly. And there is a specific piece of malware in this intel that really stands out. It's called Crescent Tharvest.
Yeah.
It's an information stealer and a remote access Trojan. But what is truly insidious is how it was delivered.
Iranian operators disguised this highly sophisticated malware as legitimate leaked video footage of anti-government protests.
They specifically targeted dissidents, activists, and journalists inside their own country who would naturally want to see that hidden footage.
They exploited the human desire for the truth to infect their machines, log their keystrokes, and quietly steal their data.
Which speaks volumes about the regime's focus on internal suppression, even during an external war.
Absolutely.
But against their external targets in Israel and the Gulf, these groups deployed a completely different, incredibly destructive tool. They used what is known as a wiper-first hybrid ransomware.
Right, so normally ransomware is basically digital extortion. Hackers lock up your files, and they demand a crypto payment to give you the digital key to unlock them.
But this wiper-first malware is different. It permanently overwrites and destroys the master boot record.
And for those who aren't IT experts, the master boot record is the fundamental architecture of a computer's hard drive.
It's what tells the computer how to be a computer.
Exactly. This malware destroys that foundation before it even attempts to encrypt anything.
It's not locking the door and demanding a key. It's burning the house down to the foundation.
It proves that the goal wasn't financial gain. Presenting a ransom note was just a smokescreen. The primary objective was pure, unrecoverable destruction of Israeli and Gulf infrastructure.
And they were highly strategic about gathering intelligence for these strikes. Researchers found that Iranian hackers were actively compromising civilian IP cameras, just regular, everyday security cameras on shops and homes across Israel and the Gulf states.
They were hacking civilian cameras to conduct battle damage assessments.
Meaning what exactly?
They were essentially watching live, hacked feeds to see where their physical missiles hit and where they missed, allowing them to correct their targeting coordinates for the next barrage. Civilian security cameras literally became missile guidance systems.
That is just, it's mind-blowing. And this blurring of lines brings us to a whole other dimension of this conflict. We've seen how they use cameras to guide physical missiles, but there's a whole other side to this.
How they use those same digital tools to hack the human mind.
Right.
The psychological dimension of cyber warfare is evolving rapidly thanks to large language models, or LLMs.
Yeah, let's talk about the influence operations. Historically, if a foreign intelligence agent wanted to steal a specific academic's credentials, they had to spend days crafting a believable, native-sounding email to trick them into clicking a link.
It was incredibly labor-intensive.
Yeah, Iranian cyber espionage groups, like the one known as Charming Kitten, use AI to perfectly mimic the writing styles, the tone, and the professional concerns of trusted researchers or journalists.
They can generate hyper-personalized, contextually perfect phishing emails at an industrial scale.
And it's not always about stealing passwords for espionage. Sometimes the goal is purely to manufacture chaos in other sovereign nations.
The intelligence shows that Iranian operators deployed massive bot farms to impersonate Scottish independent supporters online.
They amassed hundreds of millions of impressions purely to sow internal political division in the United Kingdom.
It's about inflaming existing tensions abroad. So those governments are too distracted by their own internal discord to focus on the Middle East.
AI allows state actors to mass produce fake outrage and manipulate public discourse seamlessly.
It does.
But I want to ground all this high-tech, abstract cyber talk into a very visceral human reality. We have to look at how these technologies impact daily life on the ground, specifically the Israeli military's use of surveillance in Hebron's old city.
Right. There's a biometric database known as the Blue Wolf program.
This is a system where Palestinians in the occupied West Bank are entered into a massive biometric database without their consent.
Their biographical data, their family ties, and their faces are tied to a security rating: red, yellow, or green.
And soldiers access this entire system via smartphone app. If they stop someone on the street, they take a picture of their face, and the algorithm instantly tells them if this person is a threat.
But the detail that really stuck with me is the gamification of this surveillance.
Yeah, this was wild.
Military units were actively incentivized to photograph as many Palestinian civilians as possible. Soldiers were competing for rewards, like a movie night off base, for adding the most faces to the Blue Wolf database in a single shift.
It's like a dystopian version of a coffee shop loyalty card, but instead of getting a free latte, soldiers get a movie ticket for feeding an AI the faces of an occupied population.
It converts the act of military policing into a high-stakes data harvesting competition. And the human toll of this pervasive surveillance is immense.
We have accounts from Palestinian women in Hebron, identified in the sources as Samira and Amal.
Because the military has installed highly advanced AI-powered cameras that point directly into their private gardens and living room windows, they described a total psychological erosion of privacy.
They talked about having to keep their hijabs and outdoor clothing on inside their own homes.
They are constantly living with the fear that an algorithm is analyzing their movements through their living room window.
Or that a soldier might burst in to reboot a military camera installed on their own roof.
Which brings up a broader concept that researchers are calling terror capitalism.
How does this local surveillance connect to the global tech economy?
Terror capitalism is a dark revision of surveillance capitalism. In the commercial world, companies harvest your browsing data to sell you shoes.
Right.
But under terror capitalism, the daily lives, movements, and faces of a monitored population are forcibly converted into a free stream of raw training data.
That data is used to refine and perfect biometric AI algorithms in extreme real-world conditions.
Then the private technology companies partnering with the military take those refined algorithms and export them globally.
They sell them at international weapons expos as frictionless security solutions for airports or domestic police forces worldwide.
The violence and control of the occupation essentially subsidize the research and development of global surveillance tech.
It's incredibly sobering to realize that the seamless facial recognition technology securing a foreign airport might have been trained on a gamified military app in the West Bank.
Exactly.
Which brings us to our final takeaway for you today. Looking at everything that happened in Operation Epic Fury, we have to look at the future threat horizon. Where is this all heading?
The trends solidifying in 2026 are deeply concerning. First, we are moving entirely beyond AI that just writes emails or analyzes data dumps. We are entering the era of agentic AI.
Agentic AI.
These are autonomous AI agents that act without human intervention. They can interface with third-party services, actively probe a target nation's network defenses, find vulnerabilities, and execute cyber attacks entirely on their own.
We're talking about things called predator swarms, a swarm of autonomous AI agents capable of generating and sending 10,000 highly personalized, perfectly tailored phishing emails a second.
No human security team on Earth can manually defend against that volume and speed. It's machine speed warfare.
Furthermore, we're seeing the realization of the quantum computing threat. Hackers are now actively engaging in a strategy called harvest now, decrypt later.
Current encryption is basically just incredibly complex math that would take a normal computer millions of years to solve.
But hackers are stealing massive troves of encrypted financial, health, and government data today.
They know they can't break the encryption right now, but they are hoarding it.
They are waiting for the day, which is rapidly approaching with processors like the new 105 qubit quantum computers, when quantum technology will easily shatter current mathematical encryption standards in seconds.
Instantly exposing all that historical data.
So tying this all together for you, Operation Epic Fury proved that the line between the digital battlefield and the physical battlefield has completely evaporated.
An attack on a server in the Middle East can instantaneously impact global supply chains, energy markets in Europe, and everyday IT infrastructure right where you live.
War is no longer contained to a geographic border. It lives in the cloud, in your smartphone apps, and in the algorithms processing global data.
Which leaves us with a final, vital question to ponder as we step away today.
Let's hear it.
We talked about how the military kill chain is speeding up, but as we fully cross the threshold into an era of agentic AI, where digital entities can autonomously probe national defenses and launch sophisticated cyber attacks without a human ever pressing a button, the very concept of warfare changes.
Yeah.
If a piece of autonomous code makes the calculated decision to cripple a nation's power grid, how does a human leader respond?
Right. Do you retaliate by dropping a physical bomb on a data center?
Do you bomb the city where the programmers who wrote the code live?
The entire concept of a proportional response simply doesn't exist yet for this era. It's a profound dilemma, and one the world's militaries and tech companies are going to have to answer very soon.
Very soon.
Thank you for taking this journey with us today. We know it was heavy, but understanding these unseen forces is the absolute best way to navigate the future. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.